It was a really good win for us. Anytime you play FIU, you better stay locked in, mentally, or else you'll make a lot of mistakes. And even with double-digit leads, it's different when you're playing them because of the pace of the game. Whether you're up 10 or 12 or 15, it's not a comfortable lead. But the same is true on the other side of the ball, because of the amount of possessions that are going to be in the game. Even when you're behind 7, 8, 10 points, you've got to stay focused on what you got to do. I thought we were able to do a pretty good job of taking care of the ball. That was the biggest key that we talked about all week, was not losing the turnover battle by a wide margin. We ended up 16-16 in that regard. I thought there were about 4 or 5 guys. Really, everybody that we put in the game played well. But I thought Jared was terrific on both ends of the floor. Our best offense was when he was getting touches. He had a 4-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. It's hard to do. And then we made shots. But when things have started to look different over the last couple of weeks, we talked, I think, in here the last time about not just being results-oriented but process-oriented. And, our process has stayed the same over the last couple of weeks, and that'll be our challenge going forward, is being able to do that next week against Western. But a really good homestand and a good crowd. It was great to see a lot of folks here. We heard them. It was really good. A good Saturday.
FIU goes on an 11-0 run really early in the first quarter, and maybe in some games maybe y'all played in December. That might have been it for you guys. So, how has this team built resilience up, over the past couple months to where they can respond and get back into the game in those situations?
Yeah, I just think, again, it's just about being process-oriented and not the results of what's immediately happening. That was another key to the game, was having a next play mentality, because you're going to turn the ball over in any game, but particularly in games against them. They just can't come in a flurry. And I thought we did a good job of that. There was a point in the second half where we had back-to-back turnovers and they got out and shot layups, but it didn't lead to a third and a fourth and a fifth mistake on either end. And those runs are going to happen in some games and a lot of games, but particularly against those guys, there are big runs. And it's something that we talked about over the last couple of days, is not let that distract you.
Justin, FIU is obviously known for their backcourt pressure, and while there were times where they were able to get turnovers, y'all were able to adjust to it, particularly in the second half. How did y'all figure out how to break it and get some easier offensive possessions off of it?
It was just being calm with the ball and not trying to rush through their traps they had going on, but it really was just being patient.
Jared, your assist numbers have gone up a lot since conference play started. How have you grown more comfortable, sort of in what the offense has become, and to be able to pass out of the block and get guys open?
Like I said before, it's just about having patience. Most of the time, when I catch the ball on the block, earlier in the season, I was going to put my head down and try to get a bucket. I sped up. Now I just take my time, see the floor. Hold it in a position where I'm comfortable with. If someone slaps it, it's not going to come loose. And if I see my man open, I'm going to pass it to him because he's open. And I trust my guards to knock shots down, so I'm going to get it to him.
Nick, from the start of the game, it seemed like there was a lot bigger sense of urgency than there had been in the past. Guys being more aggressive on offense, diving on loose balls. How do you think the energy has flipped maybe in practice or the locker room since you guys have started this 2-game streak?
Well, I just think, again, understanding the value of every possession, just being possession by possession oriented. We've talked about our guys have been doing a pretty good job of guarding the ball as a 5-man unit, but at times we were not taking care of the ball as a 5-man unit. It was on the person that had the ball. But a good teammate's working to get open. A good teammate, when the ball is loose, understand it's the most important thing in the building. You can have all the bells and whistles in a facility, but if you don't have a $40 basketball, you can't play. You go into an empty gym, and when you're growing up, you're trying to find if somebody left a ball over in the corner. You got in, but if you don't have a ball, it doesn't do you much good. And so I think our guys have started putting a premium on the value of the ball.
Another really good game tonight for Trey. What does a guy like him bring in a game like this that's as physical as you said?
The biggest thing is, again, our players know what they're going to get from Trey Green. We know what we're going to get from Trey Green. But what it also does is it allows us to keep two really good defenders on the floor. He's always been that, but because of his offensive growth, it's allowed him to get minutes. He's always been strong and aggressive defender. But tonight, Justin Buford hurts his knee, knee-to-knee contact, but you've still got Jacob Johnson and Trey Green. That doesn't mean the other guys can't just not decide to guard, but anybody with two eyeballs and watching the game can see he guards a little bit different. Jacob guards a little bit different. Late in the game, same thing happens to Jacob Johnson, and it allows us to keep Justin Buford and Trey Green on the floor because, other teams are going to have two or three really good offensive weapons. Arturo Dean and Javante Hawkins are really good offensive players, but we were able to keep two guys that can really defend on them.
JP, Jared, either of you guys. Last game we talked about how Trey brings the same energy to practice every day. How do you guys feed off what the energy Trey brings in games and in practice?
Trey Green, since he's got here, he's been like a really mature guy. And it's like great to see that
his work is paying off.
Yeah, his work is paying off. Like he's been the same the whole time. And it's like he's been process oriented. Like he doesn't hang his head because he doesn't get minutes.
He never got discouraged or anything.
Ever. It's more so I'm going to walk in, I'm going to do the same thing every day. I'm going to dive on the floor, I'm going to move it out the ball, I'm going to hit shots. And in practice, he's doing it. But, it's belief in it. And then, you get the results once you believe long enough. And he's consistently been in practice, shooting it, making it, getting on the floor, rebounding. He's rebounding over me sometimes. I'm like, how did he even get down there?
Yeah. I ask the same thing.
Right. So it's like every time he does that, it's just reinforcing me. Like, I know that sometime in the game he's going to come out and hit 6 threes against New Mexico. He's going to come down there and get a big board, So it's like against premium rebounders. So it's like, it's really great to see him be the same and continue to do that and get results from it. So.
Jared, in the first half, FIU was able to get some success on sort of a lob play, maybe where you were having to help side or something like that. But second half, you got I think 2 or 3 steals, sort of adjusting to that look. Was it just a matter of recognition, or was there something that you were doing to get ready for that specific play?
It is a little bit of in play adjustment. So Arturo Dean, he saw that I was playing up a little bit too much, some early in the game. So all I'll do is just watch his eyes, and it looked as soon as he get ready to put 2 hands on, I would just jump back and try to swat it out. I'm not trying to catch him, just trying to hit it to my teammates. So I think that was an adjustment, just watching his eyes, trying to see what he's going to do with it, trying to anticipate.
Nick, y'all turned over Arturo 8 times as a team. For a guy as skilled offensively that can generate his own shot, how big was that to be able to take him out of his rhythm?
Yeah, you really gotta try to make. Some guys are going to come in and get their numbers because they're that talented offensively. But if a guy's going to get 20, you try to make it on 20 shots. If he's going to get 15, make it on 15 shots. Tonight he got 16 on 15 shots. So he was really having to work. And sometimes you're just you can see the play that you can make, but if you've made as a collective his job hard, then perhaps there's some times where he's got a couple of tired turnovers because he's being asked to press us. So if we're making his job hard on the other end as well, then you can force some tired turnovers. I'm not saying that's why he did turn it over, but against a great player, you've got to guard him with 5. And I thought we did a good job of that. And to the kind of the question you asked Jared too is, I think that's been an area where we've grown a little bit. Is less game slippage, getting the answer right in practice, getting the answer right in the film room, and then, having mistakes happen on the court. But in that ball screen action, we started recognizing it better and then not hanging our heads when a guy dunked the ball. You know, that's what those guys are. You know, Pinckney, I mean, he's big and long. You know, OKK, Dante Wilcox, those guys, Sonogo, that's what they are. They're rim runners, they're dunkers, they're shot blockers. And so they're going to get some plays like that. And, you know, that was one thing that we warned our guys about is they're going to dunk 4 or 5 balls tonight. You've got to get on to the next play.
The last 2 out of the last 3 games, you guys have hit double-digit threes. Last game, you hit 9. What do you think has been the difference in these last couple weeks in you guys' ability to not only get open shots but to make them?
Working out on our own and working out with our coaches this whole week. This whole week we approached things the right way, working out with our coaches. So that's working out.
Do you practice from that range that you hit that 3 that gave them the 10-point lead?
I promise he does.
Practice too.
Well, there's not a whole lot of guys that you would be okay with that. You know, there's some that are they're deep, but we've all seen him make them. He practices them and he makes them, and so not everybody's got the go ahead, the green light to do that, but when he's open and his feet are facing the bucket, I'm surprised when he misses.
For all 3 you players, it seems like there's finally some comfort in what the offense is doing in a post-Cameron Weston world. Have y'all felt that, particularly this week? Now you're finally getting some success on the court and shooting over 50% in the half like y'all did in the second half?
Yes, we spoke about it.
And it's been happening in practice too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just you know, it's just believing in the offense. Like I feel like frustration is a part of the growth into like figuring out the offense. Like we just had to figure it out. Like when we lost Cam, and Cam's a great player, but like we got to figure it out because we can't just hang our heads and lose. Like we're gonna figure it out and we're gonna get it right. We're gonna have fun in our offense, and that's what we decided to do.
Biggest thing I think they've done is continue to work on taking the shots and seeing the openings that come with what we're doing now as opposed to what we were doing then. And that's something you want to try to work on in the preseason. You know, here's where our shots are going to come from in this offense. Here are the reads you're going to make. And here's the kind of shots when you're in the gym on your own that you should be practicing. But now all of a sudden, you got to practice a whole different shot. And you're having to learn that in November and December instead of in August, September, and October before the games start. But they never hung their heads. They never quit working. And I'll say it again, we just got to continue to stay process oriented, keep getting better.
Last game you mentioned that, you know, you guys put the conference standings up on the board in the locker room. You know, when you now it's 2 wins, but when you see that 0 that you had before Wednesday, do you think that adds a little extra motivation to that process?
Probably, I would imagine so. I mean, because these guys know that they're good players and could feel and see that we were getting better, but weren't winning games. And that's what I told them. Like, I'm really proud of the fact that they've not given up on themselves or each other or the season or what we were doing, because they knew. Like, you could see practices starting to – guys are getting better at this stuff. And then you take a tough loss. And then you come back to practice and, man, it looks good, it feels good, you could see we're getting better, and you take another tough loss. You know, and you could really start to see it a little bit at New Mexico State last week as things just started to click and look a little bit different. And then we've had a good week, not just in for the games, but they've had really good practices. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Members.